Hello, like to welcome you back to Understanding the Bible. This is session 2, segment 3, and this is about wisdom literature. Now, I wish we had more time in this course and we could delve into the wisdom literature more extensively than we're able to at this point. But the Proverbs and the wisdom literature in particular are extremely important and highly recommended as areas to study. Again, as I mentioned before with the Psalms, the Bible Project is very, very helpful here. Their read scripture on the Proverbs is very good. Their read scripture on Ecclesiastes and the read scripture on Job is also very, very good. And one of the things that I really have benefited from with the Bible Project is their attempt at comparing and contrasting or putting together, so to speak, the Proverbs and the book of Ecclesiastes and Job itself. And so they have a whole section entitled the wisdom literature where they contrast and seek to put together these three important books that we have in the Old Testament. So they call it hearing the voice of the wisdom literature. And it's absolutely brilliant and very enlightening and helpful. So, for example, they imagine the book of Proverbs as a bright young teacher who is explaining, now, if you do this, you can expect this to happen. And we see that concept all the way through the Proverbs. The Proverbs, the first section of the Proverbs is all about wisdom, how to gain wisdom. Well, you gain wisdom by doing this and not by doing that. And so they imagine the author of Proverbs as a bright young teacher who is very clear that if you do this, you can expect this to happen. And generally speaking, that is true. And then they portray Ecclesiastes as this wise old cynic. In the video, it's really quite good in that they portray this cynic as an older man smoking a pipe and kind of sitting back and hearing the advice of Proverbs. And he's a cynic. And he's looking back and he's saying, well, that may be true, but not always so. Let me tell you. And he explains how, as they say in the video, there seems to be a glitch in the system. That there are certain things that happen that they're for no rhyme or reason. There are things that happen that one can't possibly explain in a way that is convincing or satisfying in all of its aspects. And so the wise, old, hardened cynic speaks about Hevel. Hevel is the common concept throughout the book of Ecclesiastes. And Hevel is often translated vanity or meaningless, but Hevel in Hebrew, it's the idea of smoke. It's real, but you can't contain it. It's like trying to put smoke into a box. It can't be done. And yet it's real. And so as you watch these videos where they're contrasting and comparing Proverbs with Ecclesiastes, I found them to be absolutely beneficial in seeking to understand these important books of the Old Testament. And of course, the third one in the series of voices from the wisdom literature is Job. Job. Now, I found the Bible Project's explanations and elaborations on the themes and the meaning of Job be extremely helpful. In fact, they help to clarify what Job is actually speaking about. And so, of course, we have the famous story where Job is suffering and he gets to the point where he wants to interrogate God and he wants answers to his questions. And of course, God doesn't actually give him the answers that he's looking for. The the Lord reminds him of who he is and who Job is. And it seems like the whole point of the book of Job is, are you going to trust my wisdom when you don't understand? That seems to be the point. And so the Bible Project's putting together these voices of the wisdom literature are extremely helpful. And I would suggest that it's something that you watch the videos, take notes, and consider yourself how these three relate. And what you'll find is that as you compare, let's say, Job to Proverbs or Ecclesiastes, it will help to clarify what in fact Job is actually about. And so it's wisdom literature. It's to teach us wisdom. But to have the full understanding of wisdom, we need all three. Proverbs, who is the bright young teacher; Ecclesiastes, who is a sharp, middle-aged critic; and of course, this weathered old man who has seen his lot in his day, which of course is Job. So that's what I would suggest for the wisdom literature. There are resources that are available through the Bible Project. Some of the good commentaries you will find to be extremely helpful. Bruce Waltke's 2-volume commentary set on the book of Proverbs, even though it's pricey, is extremely good, and I have benefited greatly myself. So that's the wisdom literature. Again, we could spend a lot more time looking into all the intricacies of the wisdom literature, but that gives you a bit of an overview, and it's not something to dismiss. In fact, they are essential in understanding the scriptures and how we are to relate to God, even as God relates to us. So we'll pick up with the next segment when we talk about the prophets.